In this video, we're going to talk about investor-friendly title companies or investor-friendly closing attorneys. Now, if you're going through Wholesaling University and you've gotten to this page, you're thinking, David, why are we even talking about this? Why are we talking about title companies and closings when we haven't even done any marketing yet? We haven't found a house yet. Well, because you don't want to wait until you have a contract in hand and have an assignment from your buyer and then trying to figure out what a investor-friendly title company is, or starting to search for one, or all that. We need to get it lined up now, and it's not going to take a lot of time or effort, but it's good for you to know what a title company is and what the closing process is. So let's get into it. What is an investor-friendly title company? There are a lot of title companies out there, and most of them do typical residential transactions. And what that means is, you have a realtor and you have a buyer, and the buyer gets a mortgage and they go out together and they find a house, and then, they go to closing and the mortgage company sends the money over. And it's pretty cookie cutter. The title company does the same thing, transaction after transaction after transaction. So an investor-friendly title company probably does those as well, but they're also used to working on investor transactions where it's just a little bit different. The buyer sending cash over, there's no mortgage company, there's sometimes a wholesaler involved that's in signing the contract to the buyer, or they're doing a double closing or whatever. So an investor-friendly title company is familiar with all this, and you're not going to have to explain it to them when you go in. And especially if you don't know the business, how are you going to explain something to them that you've never done? So it's important to find an investor-friendly title company that can really kind of walk you through the process and just make everything really easy for you. All right, so what does a title company do? When you send it over, what are they doing for you? You send the contract to them. You've got two things you're going to do. You're going to send the signed purchase agreement and the assignment form over with your earnest money deposit. We'll get into that later. But you're going to send that to them, and then they're going to start researching that house and making sure that there's no issues with the title, that there's no errors in any records, that there's no unknown liens, that there's no illegal deeds on the property, that there's no missing heirs, that they're going to check what the water bill balance is. They're going to do all these things. They're going to make sure title's clear. All right, the person selling it is the rightful owner, and then transfer that deed to the buyer. And then they're going to give them a title insurance policy, which really says to the buyer of the property, if anybody ever comes up to you and says, hey, this is my house, it was willed to me by my, great-great-grandfather or whatever, or, I put in windows in this house 20 years ago and they still owe me money, and now you own the house, so you owe me money. If you've got a title policy on that house, the title company has to clear that issue up. They either have to, pay those people their, the money to go away or whatever, but they're responsible for cleaning it up and not the person that bought the property. So that's why a good title company and good title insurance is important. All right, let's talk about the whole title process. What happens after you get the contract, after you get the assignment, you get the deposit check, you send it over there, okay? They're going to open a title order and do a search of public records and make sure the title or the deed on this property is clean, okay? They're going to go through public records. They're going to go make sure that there's no liens, divorce judgments, any kind of judgment, the probate, whatever, wills. They're going to make sure that a construction company didn't put a roof on or new windows and there's a lien on it for that, whatever. Now, the house has probably had other closings, so they're not going to have to go back 100 years on this. If the last closing took place 10 years ago, then they're just going to go back to that closing and check from that point forward and make sure that everything's clean. Once all that's done, once they're positive, this is clean title, we can transfer this, this deed to somebody else and not have a problem, they're going to go ahead and start doing the doc prep. So they're going to, most deals they use it's called a HUD form, but if they're not doing a mortgage, they don't really have to use a HUD. They can just use a closing statement for the buyer and seller. But they're going to put on there what all the costs are and what the purchase price and the closing costs and the title policy and your assignment fee and all that. So the buyer can see all of his costs, what he's got, the total number he's got to bring to closing. And the same on the seller side. They're going to see the sales price, all the costs, and then, what he's going to receive at closing. And now an investor-friendly title company can make it so the seller isn't going to see your fee and that you're assigning the property. Now the buyer is going to see it, of course, he knows what the fee is. We'll get into talking about double closings and how you can do a closing yourself and then turn around and do another closing to the seller, or I'm sorry, to the buyer, so they can't see what your fee is. But that's another video. So anyway, the title company gets all the docs ready. They get everything that needs to be signed at closing, and then at that point they set a closing date. They're going to have your buyer wire his money over to the title company, so when everybody signs their closing documents, they have the cash there to give the seller, and everything's done. You get your assignment fee, the buyer gets the keys to the house, the seller gets his money, everybody's happy, okay? After the closing happens, this is important, and I always tell everybody to do this. Make sure you let the title company know how much you appreciate them. Send a card over to your title agent, take them all lunch, do something for them, because them liking you is going to make your deals go a whole lot better. Now, of course, you don't have to do that, but this is something I recommend. But anyway, that's the title process. That's what you need to know. We'll do other videos and get into more deep, what a quick claim deed is and what a warranty deed is and all those things. But this is all you need to know right now. You want to find a title company that can handle all this stuff. So how do you find an investor-friendly title company? What's the process of doing it? Because everybody always, searches online, they're in Facebook groups and everything, asking. But the best way to find an investor-friendly title company is, one, ask a wholesaler or investor in your area. Okay, you should be networking. You should be, out talking to people. So just say, hey, who do you use for your closings? It's not a secret. Everybody will tell you. So just ask. That's the number one way to find out. If you don't know any wholesalers and you don't know any investors and you need to get this set up, go to a real estate investor association meeting in your area. They're everywhere. You can find them on meetup.com or wherever. But go to a RIA meeting, find out who runs the RIA, and just go up to them and say, hey, I'm new, this is my first meeting, but I've got a question for you real quick. Who would you recommend as a title company for, investor deals? Who's a good title company? And they'll give you one or two or three title companies, and that's how you do it. All right, lastly, you can just do a Google search. You can do, investor-friendly title company in Dallas or whatever, and you might get some that pop up. But I would do that. That's like, last case scenario. I would ask somebody. I would ask somebody that runs a RIA, or ask another wholesaler. That's going to be your best way to find it. All right, don't find it online. Just do it in person. Once you find one and you want to call, you want to verify that they're investor friendly, there's a script on my page in this course, Wholesaling University, on the wholesalerstoolbox.com. You can look at the little script, but basically it just says, call the title company. Don't ask the receptionist, because they're not going to know. Just say, hey, I've got a question, but I need to talk to a title agent. Do you have one available? Or ask for the manager and just say, hey, I'm a investor, or I don't even know if you want to get into I'm a wholesaler. Just say I'm an investor. Sometimes I assign contracts to other investors, are you good with closing deals like that, or do you ever do a double closing or a back-to-back closing? And if they, if they're familiar with investor work and they're an investor-friendly title company, they'll know what you're talking about. So I hope this video clears up how to find an investor-friendly title company, what they do, all those things. Like I said, we'll get into it more when we get to the video on closings. We'll talk about it more, but hope this covers it for you. So that's it for this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.